everyone. I'm reporting live outside of the Eastern District of Virginia Courthouse here. We just attended the preliminary hearing for a gentleman named Russell Richardson Vane IV. He went by the moniker Duke. This is a story broken by Ford Fischer with News to Share that we've been covering on the channel here that has just gotten crazier and crazier. So I'm going to go ahead and read from some of my notes of the different things we learned today. An FBI special agent named Mark Castaldo testified today regarding the affidavit and the ricin, the toxin that was found in Vane's house. Okay, so moving on to the different things that came out here. The agent Castaldo testified that the FBI over the past 72 hours has been testing items seized from his house from the search warrant for trace levels of the ricin. They did confirm that ricin was indeed found in his home, in his laundry room, where he was manufacturing it, apparently. The agent that testified is part of a domestic terrorism task force in Washington, D.C., and some of the things that they discussed, they talked about how, the defense lawyer talked about how this was sort of like a reactionary thing, right? Like the government didn't just discover this on their own. It was the militia group coming forward with the behavior of Russell Vane and going to the news, and the news breaking the story that got the government involved, they said. So the militia came forward, they did speak to the FBI. The FBI then executed a search warrant. They found a makeshift ricin lab in the laundry room, a set of lab equipment, handwritten notes with chemistry equipment elsewhere in the laundry room and in the house. Agents found they had hazmat experts there, and they found other items that they are currently testing. The FBI and the government argued that he is a flight risk and a danger to the community. They said that he was making these items in the home where he lives with his wife and young children, and they said that there were no safety precautions taken. And they also uncovered, they talked about how he was like a prepper. He had like contingency plans. They found go bags, right? They found cash. They found precious metals. They found 23 firearms, one of which was a shotgun that was loaded in his bedroom in a place where the children could easily get a hold of it, so it was not secured. They found lists. They found a checklist called an apocalypse checklist, where he was like preparing for, I don't know, something he thought was going to happen. They confirmed that he did file his name change after the story broke. He made a false obituary. They confirmed it was him that made that. They found a document at his house which was discussed during sidebar, so we don't know what was in that. Let's see. They said he was fixated on making HMEs, homemade explosives. The government alleged that his wife is an unfit parent and was unable to protect her children, as these items were around the house unsecure, including the makeshift chemistry lab in the laundry room, and so they said that he poses a serious concern to the community and his own family. Vane was also in contact with a felon. I didn't get the first name, but the last name was Miller. This was a gentleman who was on supervised release who was convicted for assaulting a federal officer. This is a January 6th defendant. They testified that law enforcement was doing surveillance prior to actually serving the warrant on his home, and they saw this January 6th felon, I guess, at multiple times at the house, even driving his vehicle, Vane's vehicle. So the defense argued about whether the ricin was quote-unquote weapons grade. The government they confirmed he was going through the process of changing his identity, which is why he was a flight risk. They said that he was not able to overcome the threat posed by that, with just these letters from his family and friends stating that he, has ties to the community. They said his lawyer tried to say that he was trustworthy and honorable, which I don't think is supported by what evidence we do have. Now, that his lawyer tried to argue for him to be on home confinement. They wanted him to have like GPS monitoring. That did not happen. Judge Porter is having him detained pending trial due to the items that were found and things that he said online, where he talked about his fixation with making HMEs. So that's pretty much where we stand today. and there was no mention at all whatsoever of what government agency Russell Vane, aka Duke, was working for. There was no mention of his access to these things. They did mention briefly his prior firearms charges, but even those, like, they didn't touch on the one that was dropped. There was no talk about his father, who his father is, or the government connections there. So I thought that was very strange. In the entire hour-long hearing, none of that was mentioned. So that's where we stand right now. That is our update, and I will continue to follow this for you guys. Hello everyone, this is Editing Christina. I just wanted to jump in and add a few things I forgot to mention or that didn't occur to me as I was just leaving, but that I'm thinking about now. Number one being, what stood out to me most about this was during the entire hour-long hearing, not one time did we hear what government agency Vane actually works for. It was surprising to me that the government, in arguing why he's a flight risk and a threat to the community, why they wouldn't mention the fact that he was working for a government agency and what agency that was. They also didn't mention his prior military training, and I thought that was strange. They didn't mention the comments he had made to other members of the Virginia Kekoas, where he had made a comment about wanting to unite all of the Virginia militias under Russia for $50K a month, and mentioned a Russian diplomat. They didn't mention where he had asked other members of the group if they had any plans in case of a presidential assassination. Again, in a case like this where, you know, they claim they found these trace evidence of toxins at his home, you would think that that's something they would mention. Something that also stood out to me was that there was no mainstream media there today. It was just myself and Ford Fischer reporting. And in a case like this where it involves things like militia groups, HMEs, or Russia, this is the kind of story that normally the mainstream media would be all over. You would expect them to be covering this, but they weren't there. Now, something to note, the J6 individual that he was associating with was a gentleman named Matthew Miller, who just got done serving a 33-month sentence. So, I thought, again, it was strange that they didn't mention his training as being part of the reason why he was a flight risk. He does have a private lawyer, I'll also add, who appears to be very good. I'm also going to play now a clip of myself. This was outside of the courthouse when Mr. Vane's wife was coming out. I approached her to give her my contact information, and if she's listening now, I just want to let her know that I would love for her to reach out to me. I'm very available, and I would love to hear her story. And that is it for now.